Okay, all right. So in the first class, we understood what are the different roles present in the cloud: data engineer, data scientist, Azure admin, DevOps engineer, Azure machine learning engineer. What are the different roles? So Azure data engineer's job is to do extract, transform, and load, or extract, load, and transform. Architect will secure the infrastructure. DevOps engineer will try to move the data from one environment to another environment. Machine learning engineer will try to implement the machine learning model. Data scientist will try to predict the future, right? So all of those roles we have understood. We also try to understand that what we will do on day-to-day job, right? That is what we have understood. Then we basically try to go through this particular architecture, which is the first step, right? So this is the first architecture which we will focus on, in which we will try to move the data from source to the blob storage, and then blob storage to SQL Server. We will read and write the data using Databricks from the blob storage, right? And then move the data to the Power BI. This is the first architecture which we will implement, okay? Then we also understood that like what is public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, right? What is IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS, that we have understood, right? Yeah. So yeah, public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS. Then we understood how to get a subscription, and then what is resource group, okay? And then we created one of the resource, which is data factory. We understood what is data factory. Data factory basically helps us to move the data from one place to another, right? So that is what we have understood. Just like when we want to move our luggage from point A to point B, we need some sort of vehicle. So data factory will help us to move the data from point A to point B. So if you're trying to move the data from a source to Azure storage, which is a blob storage, you need some sort of vehicle, which is data factory, which we will do the job, right? Which will do the job. Now, what is the agenda for the today's class? Today's class agenda is to understand this piece, which is using data factory, how we can move the data from a source. Source can be anything. It can be my own C drive. It can be my own computer C drive, right? D drive, E drive, right? It, from my own computer C drive, E drive, or if you have, that is why I have given a homework to install a MS SQL Server on your computer. So how to move the data from MS SQL from your own computer? So source is with us, right? Either you try to install a MS SQL Server in your computer, or you try to install a MySQL Server in your computer. So if you want, you can install a MySQL Server as well in your computer. Okay, MySQL Server Community Edition. This also you can install. Okay, MySQL Server Community Edition. So to implement this piece, which is moving the data from source to the blob using data factory, we need source, we need a Azure storage, and we need a data factory. Then only we can move it, because data factory will basically try to connect with your source, try to connect with the blob storage, and data factory will move the data from point A to point B, right? So data factory, we need data factory, which we have already created in the past class. How to create data factory, right? We created data factory. We need a source, so I have given you homework to install MS SQL Server, right? Now what we will do, we will make a Azure storage, which is Azure blob storage or data lake gen 2, that we will make, and then we will understand how to use data factory to do this piece, right? How data factory can connect to this, how data factory can
So,
connect to this.
Abhishek,
Yeah.
so like the source on on-premise, no, you are saying that that is our local machine, correct? Either C fold, C drive or D drive, where we have the data. So we are moving the data from C drive to D drive to SQL Server. Huh?
Source can be anything. Source can
Uh,
be your, so suppose if you have installed MS SQL Server on your computer, right?
okay,
Then that is also it, that can be also a source. I am
okay,
We will learn how to move the data from any kind of a source, which is like,
okay,
suppose you either MS SQL or a MySQL or your C
Hmm.
drive or
Okay.
SharePoint location or
Got it.
any cloud storage, right?
Okay.
So, but currently for practice, I suggest that we
Hmm.
install a MySQL or MS SQL just to get a feel of it. But
Okay.
I will teach the concept, like conceptually how you can connect with any of the source, be it like any of the source. So conceptually we'll learn that, and then it's by choice which source we will use. But for the
Okay.
class we will try to use MS SQL or MySQL because it's easy to
Hmm.
integrate, and then we will try to use Data Factory to move the data from that source to the Azure storage, which is a blob storage or data lake Gen 2.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we have a data factory. I have given you homework to install a MS SQL. Try to install MySQL as well, Community Edition, right? And then we will create a blob storage or data lake Gen 2 now. And then using data factory, we'll understand how to connect with this, how to connect with this, and then we will understand how the movement will happen, right? So let's create a blob storage and data lake Gen 2, and then we will understand how connection will happen, right? So what is data lake Gen 2? So first of all, I am going to the Azure storage account. Yeah. So this is the storage account. Okay. What is storage account? So first of all, we need to understand this. What is storage account? So just like in Google, we have Drive, right? Similar to that, we have in Amazon, we have S3 bucket, right? And in Azure, we have a storage account. A storage account is basically a storage resource given by Microsoft to store your data, to store your any kind of a data, audio file, video file, Parquet file, CSV file, XML file, JSON file, Excel file, any kind of a data can be stored in a storage account. Okay, it is a type of a storage given by Microsoft. Okay, now it has 4 types. So if I click to any of the storage, so I have 4 storage account, 4 to 5 storage account. But if I click to any of the storage account, if I go down, right, so we are able to see a blob service, we are able to see a file service, queue service, table service. Okay, now if I click over here, we have data lake storage, we have file service, queue service, and table service. Okay, so here in storage account, so only this is the difference, right? Here we have a data lake storage and here we have a blob storage, right? So in a storage account, it has 4 types. What are those? Either you choose to create a data lake storage or a blob storage, and then it has a file service, queue service, and table service. Okay. During our class and like going forward, whenever we will implement things, we will only and only focus about data lake storage or a blob storage. As a data engineer, I worked in all of my project using data lake storage and blob storage. In 99% of the places, you will also work on this storage itself, right? But definition wise, file service, queue service, and table service is also there. File service is being used to share large file. Queue service
So
is being
Abhishek,
used. One
Abhishek,
second.
there are 4 types, right?
1 second. Let me complete and then you ask question. Okay.
Okay.
So file service is being used to share large file. Queue service is to handle messages. Table service is to handle NoSQL data, right? So we will not focus on these two types. We will only and only focus on data lake storage and a blob storage. And storage account has 4 types. One is data lake storage or a blob storage. You can either choose both of them. Sorry, you can either choose like one of them, and then we'll try to understand difference between both. I will try to elaborate the difference between both. And then it has a file service, queue service, and table service. File service is being used to share large file. Queue service is to handle messages. Table service is to handle NoSQL data, right? But we'll focus only and only on data lake storage or a blob storage. Yes, please ask question now.
You said block storage. I'm not seeing that option here, right? Only data
Here
lake
you have
storage
it.
only there.
So either you can choose either one of them. Either you create a blob storage or you create a data link storage.
Where is the data link readers? Where how you can go?
So see, in this storage account, this particular storage account, I choose, I opted an option to create a blob storage. Okay.
Correct.
But you can also opt a option to create a data lake storage. It has more advantages, which I will elaborate. But
okay, got it.
It's the option. Either you can choose like this, or you can choose this. It's the option.
Those are the storage accounts, right? Storage accounts, right?
It's a type of a storage account. One of the type of a storage account.
What about this left side, this and all below that name you are selecting, right? What is the, what we can call this and all?
Which one?
This one, Abhishek. That RG storage, something is there. Now you just click it, right? Ellipse
This
something. What we call this and all?
Yeah, 1 second. So this is a storage one. Yeah. So let me elaborate. So here, if you open a storage account, right? Currently, in my account, in my Azure account, I have 5 storage account. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can create 5 more as well, right? So it's like 5 storage, just like yeah. So you have 5 different places in which you can store the data now. If you want to create one more, it's your choice, right? It's basically per project. So suppose per project you created one storage account, there you can store the data for that project. It is project wide, you can segregate this.
Got it.
Okay, so suppose like this is a resource group, RG Ellipse resource group. This is a storage account, and then inside this, like data related to that project, right? So yeah, I have 5 storage account over here, and then if I open this storage account, I basically choose a let me see what is the option which I choose here. This is a data lake storage. So yeah, so you can choose for either one of them. Now let's understand the difference between a data lake storage and a blob storage. So here, if I click, blob service. So here, like when I open this blob storage, this is a container. We call it as a container. Container is, so in Azure term, you call a folder a container, right? So here, this is a container, which ideally a folder, but in Azure term, we call it as a container. But this also I create, like this I created it, right? So it's not by default present, you need to create it. But logs are present by default. It's created by Azure for the monitoring purpose, but this I created it. Okay. Now if I open a container, here I am not getting any option over here to create a subfolder. Means like I'm not getting any option to create it over here, right? In the blob storage. But let's go to the data lake storage now. Now, if I open any of the container here, which I created, then if you open this, right, here I am getting an option to create a subfolder. Container is like, folder is like a container, subfolder is like a directory. Okay. So here I am getting an option to create a directory, which is a subfolder. Suppose here I can create a subfolder.
Okay, Abhishek.
Here I am getting an option to create a subfolder. So this is first difference between blob storage and data lake storage, right? So you can create a subfolder inside a folder, which means you can create a directory inside a container, right? In the difference between a data lake storage and a blob storage is this. Now the second difference is, now suppose we all are working in a project, right? And then here in this data, I do have some data like which shouldn't be shared across, right? So it's a sensitive data, suppose, right? Or suppose if I have a container and then all the people are like dumping the data over here for the company, but the data needs to be segregated on a directory level, right? So you can manage ACL, access control list, which means on a particular person level, you can assign accesses when you're working in data lake Gen 2, but that cannot be done in the blob storage. Okay, so you can manage ACL, which is access control list, in data lake storage, which you cannot manage in the blob storage. That is the second difference. Now the third difference is data lake Gen 2 is being recommended.
Abhishek,
Yes,
second
yes.
difference, could you please repeat again? I'm not getting.
So suppose if 10 people are working in a project, right?
Okay.
Now suppose like this a folder, I don't want to give access to all the people, right? I want to give Delta folder access to 5%, and then those 5% shouldn't be able to see this subfolder, right? So I can manage the person level access by managing ACL, access control list. So you
Okay.
can segregate it. So suppose, yeah, so suppose I am sharing the subscription with all of you, but I do have some data in some folder which I don't want to share with anyone, that I can manage in data lake Gen 2, which I cannot do in the blob storage.
Okay.
Okay.
In blob storage, the directory itself is not there, right?
Yeah, blob storage directory itself is not there. But you can create a dummy folder programmatically, which I will tell you, which is ideally not a directory.
Okay.
Like that is a dummy folder. The folder you can create anyways, but that will be a dummy folder. That is not ideally a directory in which you can manage ACL, access control list.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Whatever you said, right, that is a row level security concept, right?
Not row level security concept is on the data level, but it's on the folder level, right? So
Understood.
row level security you can do on the data level, but it's like on the
Got it.
folder level. Yeah.
Got
So
it. Thank you.
and the data lake Gen 2 is being recommended for big data analytics workload. So and also data lake Gen 2 is a futuristic solution, and also data lake Gen 2 is basically a more costly option than a blob storage, right? Now all of this now why that is the case. So suppose like if I have big amount of data, if I have many files, I want to opt for an option in which I can manage ACL, in which I can segregate my folder, in which I can make a directory, right? So it's very understood that for big data analytics workload, data lake Gen 2 is being recommended. Now as it comes with many feature, that is why it's costly, right, as compared to blob storage. Now people are, all the current solution which is happening right now is being used, like they are using a data lake Gen 2 itself, they are not using a blob storage. Okay, every solution is being recommended, is being implemented in data lake Gen 2. Blob storage is an older solution. Okay, so previously we have a blob storage, now people are migrating from blob storage to data lake Gen 2 as well, so that like they use this options as well of directory level semantics and all of that. So and blob storage will be only used for limited kind of a requirement. So suppose I have 10 files, I have 50 files, right? I don't want to manage this folder level access, then I will use a blob storage. Otherwise all the people will use data lake Gen 2 itself. Now it's very easy to understand what is the difference between a data lake Gen 2 and a blob storage. And also it's like one of the favorite interview question. Okay, so this particular question is very commonly asked interview question. And so please remember this. Okay, and also remember container directory, don't say folder subfolder. Okay, it doesn't sound technical, so say container directory. Okay, very basic question but very frequently asked. Okay, so yesterday when we talk about public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, I said that it is not important from the interview perspective, but important from the certification perspective. But this particular question is very important from the interview perspective, so please remember this. Blob, what is the difference between a blob storage and data lake Gen 2? In data lake Gen 2, you can create a directory inside a container, which you cannot do in the blob storage. Also in data lake Gen 2, you can manage ACL, access control list, which you cannot do in the blob storage. Data lake Gen 2 is a futuristic solution. Blob storage is the older solution. Data lake Gen 2 is being recommended by big data analytics workload because you have big amount of data, you can segregate your data properly. That is why we recommend data lake Gen 2 for it, right? So please remember all of this is difference, very important from the interview.
That fourth point, I believe Abhishek, last point I'm not getting. 3 points fine.
cheaper, Blob Storage is cheaper, also recommended for big data analytics workload. Blob
Okay.
Storage is a older solution, Data Lake Gen 2 is a new solution.
Okay. Okay.
Abhishek, I have one question here. So already, let's say like in my project, I am using blob storage. Now, if I want to migrate it to Gen 2, so like what are the aspects that we need to consider there?
The aspect which you need to consider is how you want to
I mean, like complete lift and shift I want to do. So whatever there in blob, so I want to make it in a Gen 2. So does it cost, like how it cost, like in terms of cost and other aspects? I just want to know.
in the cost aspect, what you can do is like so how much the cost will be increasing and everything you can check in the cost analysis given by Microsoft. You can yeah, so here in the cost analysis you can basically add the your storage, which is blob storage and data lake gen 2, and then analyze the cost. Ideally, what should be the what will be the change in the cost that you can analyze, and then after that, when you are moving to data lake gen 2, how you want to divide the data, or how you want to segregate data that you want to that you need to consider. Uh, and then how you want to apply the ACL access control list in the data lake gen 2 that you need to consider, and that's all I feel. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, Abhishek. Thank you.
but ideally as a data engineer you will not do this kind of analysis and take a decision whether uh, you should migrate or those things. Yeah, so you will not do ideally those kind of analysis. That will be done by architect who will take this into the consideration. Okay,
Okay.
and we have this storage mover as well, which I haven't used as a feature, but this feature is also there, which can, like, not this one, somewhere it's there. One second, let me check it. Which helps you to migrate to data lake gen 2, but it's not so user friendly. Where is there? One second. Yeah, so here somewhere it's there that which helps you to blob to data lake gen 2, but you when you try to do using this, you face challenges. It's not so user friendly. So generally we use Data Factory to migrate. It's bit easy. Yeah, so this option can be also opted, but honestly I haven't opted those option. I probably have done it by using Data Factory itself, because it's not so user friendly when it comes to using this migration from blob to data lake. Okay, fine. So now let's understand how we can create blob storage and how we can create data lake gen 2, right? So just like you can come to storage account, then hit create. And then you select the subscription, you select your resource group. Okay, you select your storage account name. Yeah, you can give like, okay, you give your region. Everything will by default will not change anything. Next. Now Here if you enable this, which is hierarchical namespace, which is like hierarchical namespace complemented by data analytics workload. Give me a second, guys. I'm receiving. Yeah, so so hierarchical namespace complemented with data lake Gen 2 endpoint, enable file and directory level semantics, Xlake big data analytics workload, enable ACL, which we have understood. Hierarchical namespace means you can basically create a directory inside a container. Complemented by data lake analytics endpoint means if you select this, it will create data lake Gen 2. Enable directory level semantics means directory level semantics can be done, right? ACL can be done, accelerates big data analytics workload, right? So yeah, so if you enable this, those options will be checked, right? And then you will create a data lake Gen 2. If you don't check on this, it will create a blob storage for you, right? So that's all. And then every all the options will be by default. Okay. Now networking, data protection, encryption, the creation of the storage, all of those options, like you will not take care of it. It will be taken care by admin, right? So don't, like, if you have curiosity, you can learn about, you can see it, but as a data engineer, you will not create resources, right? So the other team will create it, but you can, like, if you have a curiosity, you can read about it, but it's not necessary as a job of a data engineer. Okay. Now that's all, right? So the only option which I have changed is in the advanced option. I have changed this, have enabled this option, right? In the advanced tab, I enable this option and everything is by default. Okay, then review and create. Hit review and create. Okay, after this. Hit create. So the resource has been created. now if you see, like here I can create a container, right? And inside that, if I want, I can create a directory as well. Okay, container, and then I can create directory. Similarly, if you uncheck that option, you will be able to create a blob storage. Okay. Yeah, here I can create a subfolder if I want to, right? So this is how you can create a container inside a directory, and then you can create a subfolder inside a folder. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So, any doubt on this, guys? Is it clear for everyone?
Yes,
Yeah,
Abhishek.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I think so.
Now we created this. We already have this, right? So you install MS SQL, MySQL, right? You can, if you want, you can move the data from using file system, right? We have data factory which we have created yesterday. Now we will use this vehicle to move the data from one place to another, point A to point B. Okay. Now, whenever, suppose if I want to move my luggage from point A to point B, I need to give address, right? I need to give the address to point A, of point A to data factory, and also point B to data factory, right? Then only data factory can move the data. So when I ask data factory, hey data factory, can you move the data from source to destination? Then data factory will ask that, can you tell me the address of this and also address of this? Then only I can do that job, right? Also at the same time, I need to have authentication of this and then authentication of this, right? Then only data factory can move the data from point A to point B. So there are two things. First is the address, second is the authentication. Then only data factory can do the job, right? So now we will understand the process of creating a connection and also the way of authenticating it, right? So we'll understand that now. So first of all, before that, let's open data factory. So yeah, so just to give you a brief about it, here we can go home, click data factory, click to the data factory which we have created, and then launch the studio. Now, if you say that Abhishek, can I open the data factory directly? Yes, you can do it. Suppose if I go to the incognito mode, if I just paste here, I can open the data factory without opening Azure portal.azure.com, right? The data factory can be opened directly as well. In which cases we do it. So sometimes you work in a some sort of like consulting a project, and like yeah, so they don't want to give you the portal access, they just want to give you the data factory access. But yeah, you can open the data factory directly as well if you want to. Okay, if you just log in, that can be done.
One question, Abhishek.
Yes.
All right. So while creating the storage account, right, by default, the data lake type storage gets created.
By default, blob will be created by default, not data lake.
Blob, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So suppose if
But
I
where
click,
do we have that option? Yeah.
if I click over here, in the advanced tab, here you have this option and it is by default not checked. You need to check it. So suppose if I just come here and then write name like storage.
So Abhishek, it is a blob and one more you said, right? So it will be automatically inbuilt or we need to create those two storage, those two.
Sorry, come again. What I said?
You said two types, right? Blob one type and another type, another one
Data
more
lake
type, no?
Gen2.
Latest
Data
and
lake
data lake
Gen2.
joint.
So if
Those
you
two we
check,
need to create.
no. See, either both of them you cannot create, right? In a storage account, either you can create a data lake Gen2 or you can create a blob storage. Both cannot be created in a storage account. Okay, so if you see any of the storage account here, I will not see both in any of the storage account. I can either create a data lake Gen2 or I can create a blob storage. If you check that option which I have shown you, that will create data lake Gen2. If you don't check that option, that will create a blob storage. Simple.
Okay.
Oh, okay, got it.
Now, yeah, it's clear for everyone, right?
Where is that? Like where we are going to segregate whether it is a data, like
In storage account, if you click over here, if you go to advanced tab, then you will see it. Advanced. Here. Easily understood. So you need to just go to advanced tab and then here you will see hierarchical namespace. Right? That you need to check.
But where is those two? Like you said, right? Like where is
so it's
like
by default it's blob storage. Okay. By default. So if you it's create, so if you don't check this, it will create a blob storage, only blob storage.
Okay. Enable
if you check
hierarchical name.
this, it will create a data lake Gen2.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, so this is data factory, this is a home tab, right? So here we have like, here you can create your pipelines. So pipeline means the data movement pipeline you can create here. This is a monitor tab in which you will understand the runs, like at what time which pipeline is running, that you can check over here. Second, one of my trigger is running, so let me stop it. Yeah, so here you can basically anyways. So yeah, so here you can run the pipeline runs, like you can see at what time which pipeline is running, that you can see here. This is a manage tab which we will learn now, in which you will make the link, right? You will try to connect to the server, try to authenticate it, integration runtime, right? So here we will try to make a connection. This is the learning tab in which you can learn things, right? Now we'll go to each tab one by one. First of all, we'll understand this tab, right? In which we'll understand link service and integration runtime. Git configuration we'll understand later. Triggers, all of that we'll understand later. First, we'll focus on link service and integration runtime. Also, from the interview perspective, is very important. Link service integration runtime. Okay. So this data lake Gen2 blob storage, link service integration runtime, very important. So let's understand this, because it's generally asked how you have connected with the source, what are the initial steps you have done. So very frequently asked question, right? So first we will understand about integration runtime. What is that? So there are three kinds of integration runtime. One is Azure self-hosted integration runtime. Second is Azure default integration runtime. Third is SSIS. Okay, let me show you the slide for it.
So Abhishek, you will explain individually for each component again, or like you are continuing now only for everything?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I think let the teacher show us one by one and how it goes, and then we can ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, let me go to the integration runtime. Yeah, so integration runtime has three types. Okay, Azure default integration runtime, Azure self-hosted integration runtime, SSIS. Okay, Azure default integration runtime will be used to connect with. So see, when you are using Data Factory, it's not that you will always migrate or you will always try to move the data from a particular storage which is there, which is not there in the cloud, right? Ideally, so yeah, so let me try to explain. So suppose this is my Azure storage which I have created, Azure storage. Now, from if I want to move the data from here to here, right? It can be like my data can be there at multiple places, right? Suppose I am working in Walmart and Walmart has a data in S3 bucket, Amazon S3 bucket, which is there in the cloud, right? Amazon S3 bucket. Now, suppose they have some data in SharePoint as well, for example. And now, and also they have some data in some sort of on-premise server, which is MS SQL, for example, right? So ideally, Data Factory should be able to move from both of the server, be it in the cloud or be it in the on-premise server, not in cloud, right? So there are three kinds of integration runtime. So your self-hosted integration runtime will be used to connect with any of the server which is there, which is not in the cloud. Okay. Azure default integration runtime will be used to connect with the server which is there in the cloud. Okay. So cloud, not cloud. SSIS is to move SSIS packages. Okay. So SSIS is a tool given by Microsoft in the past for like data movement. So if you want to move SSIS packages, then you can use SSIS integration runtime. We will not learn about SSIS integration runtime. We'll learn only about default integration runtime or self-hosted integration runtime because it has limited usage of moving SSIS packages only. And I have worked only on default integration runtime and self-hosted integration runtime, and you will be also working on like 99% of the cases on this two integration runtime itself if you don't have SSIS work particularly. Okay. Now, what is this two integration runtime? Yeah, simple. Cloud, we will use this. Not cloud, we will use this. Okay. Why we are calling it as a default integration runtime? Because you don't need to create it, right? Simple. So when you come here, when you create your data factory for the first time, if you open your data factory, if you go to the integration runtime, you will see it. Okay, so like this particular integration runtime will be present. We call it as auto resolve integration runtime, we call it as Azure default integration runtime, right? This is the integration runtime we will use for cloud, and it's given to you by Microsoft. It's maintained by Microsoft. Okay, you don't need to create it. It's given to you automatically. It's present. Okay. When to use it? To connect with cloud. Azure self-hosted integration runtime will be created by you, will be managed by you, because it will help you to move the data from your server. Okay, so you need to create in your server. Microsoft cannot create it. Very simple, right? So Microsoft can just like cater the server which is like it's there in the cloud, right? So Microsoft can provide you the integration runtime for them for that. But in this particular, if you have the data in your own computer, right? Suppose if I have data in my computer, then I need to install I need to basically install a software in that computer. So let me tell you the process of this self-hosted integration runtime. So for this self-hosted integration runtime, what you need to do, you need to install a software in that computer. Now, suppose if I want to connect with this SharePoint, right? So what I will do here, I will use the so for self-hosted integration runtime, what I will do, I will use default. I will use okay. Oh, I click this. Sorry guys. Yeah, so for default, I will use this, right? And then to connect with now to connect with MS SQL, I will use so here we have Data Factory. Okay, Data Factory. So in Data Factory, to connect with cloud service, you will use default integration runtime, right? Or auto resolve. I'm writing auto resolve here. This we will use auto resolve. This also we will use auto resolve. Given by Microsoft, will directly use it. Okay. For this particular server, what we will do, we will try to install a software here. Okay. So that Data Factory can interact with this software. If this software has this particular computer has an internet connection. So what Data Factory will do, Data Factory will interact with this software and then interact with this server. Okay. So suppose if I want to move the data from my computer, okay, and in my computer, if I have a MS SQL, for example, then what I need to do, I need to install a software in my computer so that that software will help Data Factory to communicate with my MySQL. Okay. So suppose if I have a MS SQL here, what I will do, I will install a software in my computer, and Data Factory will connect with that software to fetch the data from MS SQL. Okay. Let me show you the diagram of that. Yeah. So what Data Factory will do? Data Factory will need to install a software in my computer. My computer means this is the corporate firewall, right? So in that server, we need to install this integration runtime. Then Data Factory, this integration runtime will communicate with this on-premise server and then communicate with Data Factory. Right? So Data Factory will communicate with this, and then this integration runtime send this read and write request and then fetch the data, right? So this is how it will happen, right? So let me show you how you can install this integration runtime in your computer, in my computer basically, and then I will show you how we can connect after that. Okay. So you can click to the new integration runtime, you can click to the self-hosted integration runtime, self-hosted integration runtime. Then suppose, so what I have done basically, here you click new, you click to the self-hosted, click continue, click to the self-hosted again, click continue. Here we can write the integration runtime. Suppose my PC IR, hit create. Okay, then click on download and install integration runtime. Okay, then click on download, then select the first file and then download it. Okay, and then click download and download it. So yeah, so if you click to the downloader, it will start the downloading, right? Now, if you're using a Windows computer, it's easily you can easily download it. If you're using a Mac computer, right? So this particular software is not valid for the Mac computer. There are many workaround which we need to do. It's a hectic process, right? So if you have a Mac computer, leave it right now. I will tell you some other way to practice this particular piece. But yeah, so if you have anybody has a Mac computer here, or everybody has Windows, because this integration runtime doesn't work for Mac. Basically, system requirement is operating Windows operating system, not for the Mac. So everybody has a Windows, right?
Yeah, Abhishek, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for Linux systems, what they will happen? Actually, so my application is run on Linux server. So how to connect Linux server through ADF?
This integration runtime is valid only for your so yeah, you can install this integration runtime in Windows computer itself, not the Linux computer. So yeah, so I need to check for it how to connect with the Linux server, but this integration runtime is valid only for Windows computer. So you can install this Windows computer in your Windows machine, and then you can fetch the data uh, from the from the server, right? But if you have a Linux server, how to approach that I need to check for it. I am not aware right now how to fetch data from the Linux server. Yeah, I can check for it and then let you know. But this will not help in the either in the Mac computer, or if you have a Linux operating system, this will not help in that case.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so we need to install a software, Microsoft integration runtime in that server, right? So we need to install this software in that server. Once this software is installed, then Data Factory will interact with this software. Okay. So yeah, so once this download process is completed, once this download process is completed, what we need to do? We need to basically copy this key. Okay, copy this key. You can copy either of the key. You can copy this key, and then you can paste this particular key in the once you run this downloader, right? Once you run this downloader once you run and then it's finished, you copy the key, paste it over here. Okay, in this downloader file you can paste it, and then you click register. Okay, you will click register. Once you register it, then you will see this integration runtime is running. This integration runtime will be running after that. So you will not see unavailable, you will see this running. Okay, status is fine. Once you do that, this integration runtime is running, right? So it's this is the process. So first you download the software, then you copy the key, paste it over there. First you download, copy the key, paste the key over there, then hit register. Once you hit register, it will be running. Okay. So once it's running, the Data Factory is authenticated to communicate with your server. Okay. After that, what you need to do? So connection has been established, right? But the connection has been established with this server. But now, suppose if you still have some particular database over here, right? Data Factory can communicate with this integration runtime, but these pieces still not connected, right? Suppose if you have some SQL ID and password, how SQL ID and password can be fetched? You haven't given any details about it, right? So suppose what you have done till now, you connected Data Factory with integration runtime, but you didn't, like, suppose this SQL ID, this SQL has ID and password. So but Data Factory needs that ID and password, right? Needs that authentication. So for that we have a link service, right? So once integration runtime is done, and then this you need to do only for the this your on-premise server for like yeah, so for only for on-premise server you need to do it, and only for cloud server you can directly use this auto-resolve integration runtime. Once you do that, you need to create a link service. Now this is the final step, right? So suppose the Azure storage we were approaching this particular architecture, right? So we have a data factory. We understood how data factory connect with the on-premise server, how data factory can connect with the blob storage. Now I'm creating a link, the final address thing, right? So here I am going to data lake gen 2, right? And then I click continue. And then here you need to select your subscription. Then you select your storage account name. So suppose this is the storage account name which we choose, right? And then you test connection. It's important to test connection. Otherwise, if you create it and something is wrong, then you won't understand, right? Then you hit create. Okay. So this is how you can connect with Gen 2. This is how you can connect with Gen 2. Okay. Now, if you want to connect with SQL Server, how you can do it? You can type SQL Server here, right? And then you can give your integration runtime which you have installed. Okay. Then you give your server name, database name, username and password, right? All the details you can give here, and then test connection. Once you test connection, it's successful. Then you connect with SQL Server as well. So both of the steps are homework for you guys. So you install the integration runtime, then you make a link service to connect with your SQL Server and also for Data Lake Gen 2. And then we'll try to understand the next piece, which is movement, right? That we'll understand after that. So today's class is very important from the interview perspective, right? We understood what is the difference between data lake Gen 2 and a blob storage, what is integration runtime, what is link service. And the homework for the class is basically all of this step, right? What we have done. So create blob storage, create a data lake Gen 2, the data lake Gen 2, right? And then create install self-hosted integration runtime. Then create link service for blob. Yeah, so similarly, just like I choose data lake Gen 2, right? Over there, you can use blob as well. You can type blob here and you can connect with this link service for blob data lake Gen 2, and then create link service for MS SQL, MySQL, right? Whatever you have installed, or if you install both, then you can try to create a link service for that. Okay, so yeah, so these are the options and these are the homework which you need to try, and then we'll meet tomorrow, same time, 10 p.m. Okay.
Abhishek.
Yeah.
So once we have installed this self-hosted integration and the runtime and the other runtime, so do we need to again install this while we create a new storage account, or if it is once it's fine?
For a storage account, you don't need to install anything, right? For a storage account, you need to use a already given the integration runtime, which is auto resolved integration runtime, right?
Yes, yes.
So see, here don't confuse with where to move. Okay, so suppose like once this connection has been established, right? Once this connection has been established, data factory is connected with SharePoint. Now data factory can ideally use the same connection to move with n number of storage. That's not a problem. It's a one-way communication. It doesn't depend on next, right? So you are connecting with SharePoint, you are connecting with S3 bucket, you are connecting with Amazon this SQL. Now if you have this connection, if you have this connection, then you can ideally move the data like this, right? So yeah, so it's one-way communication. So suppose if I ask you how to move the data from S3 bucket to like suppose how to move the data from uh, data lake gen 2 to MS SQL, for example. So you need to separately think how to connect with MS SQL. Yeah. So what I will do, I will install an integration runtime, make link service for MS SQL. Once that connection is established, data factory has the address of MS SQL. Now separately, I need to think about blob storage, right? So self-hosted auto resolve integration runtime and then link service. Yeah.
Abhishek, you said right how to connect with the MS SQL. That part I'm not getting you, Abhishek.
Which part you didn't get?
So if I want to share the data from block storage or
Okay, so see, don't confuse. So yeah, here we have, let's think one by one. Okay, this is
Yeah.
data factory.
Okay.
This is data factory. Now where to move, it's not a question. Just the question is how to connect. That is the question. Okay, where to move, where to move and where to take, it's not a question. It's the question of connection. Now if this source, what is the type of source? MS SQL. This is MS SQL, right? So this is the source. You are now, yeah. So how to connect with this? So basically, what we will do, we will install self-hosted integration runtime here. Once you do that, you give the key from data factory to this, then authentication is being done, then the connection has been established. Then after this, you make a link service to connect with your source. So yeah, what we need to do, first of all,
No,
you go
Abhishek, sorry.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that one, first one you said the links. What is that one?
One by one. Let me explain one by one. Okay.
You're going
This is
little fast, Abhishek.
yeah. This is data factory. This is MS SQL. Okay. So first of all, the process is, first of all, we will go here. We will install. We will go here. We will click here. Click here. Go here. Click here. Then we create this.
Integration runtime setup, right?
Yeah, we will install this software, right? Which I was explaining. This software, you need to install this one software, right? You install this software in that server. Okay. This software you install this in this server wherever you want to move. Okay. So this software you will install in that server. Is that point clear?
Clear, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you install the software, so once you install this software, the installer will run. Once the installer will run and it's completed, what you need to do, you need to give this key so that, yeah, so you run the installer, it's completed, right? But you need to authenticate. So this particular software can be installed with anyone, right? But the authentication needs to happen so that this software also know which data factory to connect. So this particular key, so suppose I want to move the data from your computer, right? You install the software in your computer, right? Then I will give you this key. Hey man, take this key. So once you approve it,
you mean the software needs to install in both the machines?
Only in the machine from where you want to move the data. Suppose you said, Abhishek, you try to move the data from my computer. Okay. So then in that case, you will install the software in your computer, right? Then I will give you this key. Okay. I will copy and then give you this key so that once you approve, then your computer knows that you need to, this particular software needs to communicate with my data factory, right? Because I have given you the key.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, so once this key has been given, then this software will interact with this data factory, right? Is this clear now?
Correct, sir. Yeah.
Okay, now suppose if you have MS SQL, MySQL, or if you have PostgreSQL, whatever SQL you have or whatever database you have, right? Here you have here you have it, right? Now what you do, you choose that. You go to link service and then you choose that. So suppose if you have MySQL, you choose this. If you have SQL Server, you choose SQL Server. If you have PostgreSQL, you choose PostgreSQL. If you have Oracle, whatever server, whatever database you have, you know it so that you choose it, right? So you
Yes.
choose the server. You choose the server, SQL Server, right? Now after this, what you will do, you will select the integration runtime which you have installed, because you install in database is present in that server, you install in that server, so you use the same integration runtime, right? So you use the same integration runtime here. Then you try to give the server name, database name, username and password, so that you give the password, then only this integration runtime which you install know the password of this, then it will communicate with this, right? Otherwise it cannot communicate, right? Then you give
Correct, sir.
every credential and then it communicate. Now the whole thing has been established. So this particular data factory will reach out to this. My data factory will reach out to your computer's integration runtime and then say that, yeah, I need department data. Then this integration runtime will use the credential which you have given and then go to this server and say that, hey man, this data department is needed. Then it has the credentials, so it will log in, give the data back, then it will give the data to this. Is it
Okay,
clear?
understood. Clear.
Okay guys, so it will be more clear once you do this. Okay, so please try to complete the homework and then it will be more clear. Then we will try to brainstorm on this. I will give you multiple scenarios, you try to give the answer, and then we will yeah, so try to practice this. It will be more clear. If not, then tomorrow it will be completely clear once you practice it. Okay, I will also give some scenarios. Let's meet tomorrow then, same time. And yeah, so if you have questions, please ping me. I will try to join early because in India it's late and I think many people are from India. So yeah, so please ping me early so that I can join 15 minutes early so that we can clear the doubt. And then let's start 10 p.m. IST itself tomorrow.
Okay. Can I just ask a quick question? For me, installing Microsoft SQL Self Management Studios, I'm having a problem. I'll ask you like repair. So shall I show you my one, share with my screen, just quickly see what?
Yeah, so others who doesn't have any question can end the call and then good night guys, we'll meet tomorrow. And yeah, so if you want to stay in the call to see it,
So
you can.
Abhishek, this is second class, right? Abhishek, only 2 classes only, right?
Yes, this is second class.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Abhishek.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, Abhishek.
Yeah.
So Abhishek bhai, could you please send this video to me?
Yeah, please share your email ID.
I already kept in that group.
Yeah, I will share yours. I will share.
Because tomorrow first class and both I need to do practice. I didn't do as of now.
I will share both. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, please share your screen.
Yeah, basically what I wanted was sharing with you number one. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So let me just basically, if you can see here, I've downloaded both of them. So, but I don't know, I did this one again. So can you just go through this too? I have done it again on this one.
Where you exactly facing a problem?
No, let me abbreviate. But basically, you see when you click as a admin, yeah, it will say report uninstall. I repair it and it says, but
so have you seen the video which I have given and then try to do it?
yeah, I've done it, but it didn't look. If you look at them, it says, I don't know why. Sorry to take your time, please. Sorry.
No,
So I
so
wanna
this
br-
the server like this installation process is actually computer dependent, right? Sometimes like your computers has some sort of software and then you are not able to install it. Uh, so if you follow the video which I have given you, probably you can install it because that is being followed by many of my students and they can install it. But if you are facing some problem, we need
It
to check
says
it together actually.
unsuccessful. I've tried when it says unsuccessful. So
Yeah.
while it's doing this one, if you can see on the other one, which is the expression, that one I've worked, but I really didn't understand. So just